Welcome to Suzanne's studio. I'm Suzanne Barnett, your host, and tonight I have a face pattern recognition expert. Wait till you hear what Naomi R. Tickle does. Naomi is a world-renowned speaker, and she is a career coach. She has been on BBC, NBC, The Today Show. Naomi is so famous, I could do the whole show telling you all about Naomi, and here she is. Naomi, I am so happy to have you on the show.
Well, it's great to be here, Suzanne.
What in the world is a face pattern behavior expert?
Well, it's someone who looks at the physical features of the face and it indicates our innate abilities. And this was started back many years ago, back in the 1930s, by a judge. And whilst in court, he noticed a strong correlation between the facial structure and personality, to the point he became so intrigued by this that he dropped his work and then researched much of the work that had been done already, completed on physiognomy, phrenology, which was the lumps and bumps of the head, and also the face reading books. And after his research on thousands of people, he came up with 68 traits with a 88% accuracy. And a lot of these traits can be seen at the time of birth.
And we don't change that much? Is that what you're saying?
No, but once the child has passed puberty, then all these traits are then fully formed. Now, we inherit these traits from our parents. So if we have parents who have very different facial features from each other, then the child can inherit those differences, and that's what creates the asymmetry of the face. So this is more of a scientific approach to understanding human behavior. And it simply validates what we already know about ourselves. So, sometimes things come up, say, well, aren't you judging or discriminating, or maybe even racist, that could come up too. Mm-hmm. And we're not, because this goes across all cultures. So no matter where you are in the world, if they see someone who has a more exposed eyelid, like yourself, it will mean exactly the same. They want people to get to the bottom line.
How did you get started in this, Naomi?
Well, I was actually taking a course on image consulting in San Francisco back in the 1980s. And whilst I was there, this man came in to have his colors done, and he was a student of the face pattern recognition. And he was looking for people to go down and have their faces read. And I thought, oh, this sounds so California-like. I wasn't going to fall for this one. Anyway, my friends were going down, having their faces read. And I thought, okay, I'm going to secretly go down and not tell anyone what I'm going to do. Well, I tell you, after that reading, it's all facial structure, I was amazed by the accuracy. I have taken lots of tests over time. Nothing compared to this. I felt validated for the first time. And so I felt reconnected with who I was.
And one of the questions, we were talking about it before, and I thought maybe I shouldn't ask you, but of course I'm going to ask you. When you meet anybody, is it, I mean, I'm trying to put this into words. You can judge the people right away?
I wouldn't like to use the word judge.
Well, judge. What would you call it?
You can match the people right away with their interests. Like this young man who I met who was helping people out in the garage with their parking tickets. And all I could see was this creative young man. And the curiosity got the better of me, and I thought, I'm going to ask him what he's planning to do. And so I said, what are you doing? You're going to college? No, I'm not going to college. I said, well, what are you going to do with your life? He said, well, I don't know. I'm a high school dropout. Who's going to have me? And so I shared with him what I did. And I said, I see you getting into editing or documentary films. And he looked at me in total surprise. He's about 17, 18 years of age. And he took my hands in his. And he said to me, he said, you don't know where I was today. He said, I was at the lowest point of my life. He said, you have just changed my life around. He said, film editing was something he'd always be interested in. So all we're doing is we're helping people to get back on track with their life. As we go through life, we get all sorts of input from parents, teachers, well-meaning friends. Oh, what do you do that for? You will never make any money at that. Or what's wrong with you? You're a lazy, good-for-nothing individual. And we begin to lose confidence in ourselves. And so what I do is, by using this system, which is, as I say, more scientific, it's not intuitive, I don't do intuition, it helps them to reconnect with who they are. A stranger comes up and say, here are your gifts. They know that already. But what I've done is I've just reconfirmed the direction they can go into. And it just is changing many people's lives.
How many people have you experienced?
Thousands.
Thousands?
All over the world.
Tell.
Well, you know, people say, I do this from photographs. So, for example, this young man the other day from Indonesia sent me his photograph. And I thought, oh, he should be in the television theatre or something like that. He said, oh, that's something I've always wanted to do, but I wasn't quite sure. I said, well, you know, you have a gift. It's something I think you'd be a great fit for. And so he said, thank you for that. He said, you've just confirmed what my thoughts and helped him to move forward. Or when I was at a cafe, in a restaurant down by the river in Petaluma, and I saw two young children with the C-shaped ear, which when the outer edge of the ear is completely rounded. These are your musicians. And they have a passion for music. They play music, they sing. And I said to the mother, I said, does your child play a musical instrument? She said, oh, yes. She said, but have you heard my 17-month-old baby? And with that, she gives him the xylophone, and he, it's not called a xylophone, I've forgotten what it's called now. I want to say mouth organ, I guess that's the English term. But anyway, his 17-month-old picks it up and plays a tune.
A harmonica.
A harmonica, thank you, yes.
Yeah. And the baby could play a tune?
At 17 months of age, yes. And the mother played in the orchestra. And, you know, so the gifts are there. We can see a lot of these traits at day one, like music, writing, the designer, the detail person, the architect, the love of drama, the theatre. And I believe if we were to reach out to the students who are lost in life, I mean, we have 70% of the students leaving school today degree in hand and haven't got a clue what to do. So what tells me the tests are not helping them to get on track. And I believe this has made a huge difference in their lives and reconnect with who they are. You know, I think of the face as a GPS to our inner blueprint.
A GPS in a blueprint.
Yeah.
You wrote something about perfection. What is perfection?
Well, when the outer corner of the eye is lower than the inner corner, so it comes right down, like the Hugh Grant eye. Also, Obama has it in one eye only. These are your perfectionists. These are the people who see mistakes that others miss, and they wonder why you miss them.
And it's actually true.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would say that trait is 100% right on. Anytime you see the outer corner of the eye is lower than the inner corner, that's your perfectionist. Now, that's their gift.
It's not just an old eye.
No, it's not an old eye.
Okay.
No, and you'll see that in people, like when we hired this person to come in and rebuild our deck, believe you me, I looked at his face thoroughly, and he had the perfectionist trait, and he did a fantastic job. So they're precision people. But where can be the challenge with people who have this trait is, say they have children, the children come running home from school, show their parents who have this perfectionist trait what they've done, and all the parents says, look what you haven't done. And so never good enough. They never live up to their parents' expectations, so it can wear them down. And they feel lost. Like this man I worked with from New York, he was a taxi cab driver. Sent me his photographs. I saw that both of his eyes, corners of the eyes, were lower than the inner corner. I said, what was it like growing up with your parents? He said, I don't want to go there. It's too painful. And I said, well, you've got the gift for music, the C-shaped ear. And he said, well, that's interesting. He said, I was at the Los Angeles School of Music. And he said, but I dropped out because I got so criticized. And I said, well, you know, you have a gift. Get back, play your music again, and join a group. He did that, just that, and it took me 3 emails.
To make him understand that.
Help him understand.
Yeah, to help him.
Yes, so it wasn't judging, it's reconfirming this was his gift.
What if you see something very negative in someone's face? How do you deal with that?
Well, there's nothing really negative because we do have choice. Choice supersedes structure. For example, if the eyes are very close together, and we actually measure this trait, We measure the space between the eyes, and we measure the width of the eye itself. And if the eye is larger than the space between, these people are very good with detail. Now, one of the issues there, the flip side of this, is that people with extremely close-set eyes can focus on issues till it's bigger than life itself. I had this woman sent me a photograph, had these extremely close-set eyes. Hadn't driven in years. She was so afraid of driving. And I explained to her what was going on and suggested she listen to a book on tape when she next got into the car. Now, next week, she did just that, and she drove from London to Wales and hasn't stopped driving, because I helped to explain to her that everybody with the very close eyes are the worriers sometimes. And they can worry about things till it's bigger than life. And so playing music, listening to a book on tape, helped her to relax. But the gift of this is that next time you're in your dentist chair, check out their eyes. They're probably going to be close set, good with detail. Yeah, and your teacher. And people who specialize in certain areas of their career often have close eyes. So that's the gift.
But you know, this is so funny now, since I've met you. The next person I meet, I'm going to have to look. They're going to say, "What are you doing?" Because I have that information, right? You were saying something about noses. What about noses?
Well, if someone has a really ski jump nose, like the Bob Hope nose, these people will go the extra mile for you. How can I help you? What can I do for you? Oh, don't worry about money. You can have it. Pay me next time. Both men and women alike have a hard time charging the full price. Mm-hmm. And they're embarrassed around money. Mm-hmm. And they'd rather ignore that. They'd rather not talk about it. So I say to them, well, give it to your finance person. And that way it handles it. Whereas someone who has the Roman-shaped nose, and we're looking at the bone on the nose. If it's really, like an inverted V, where the nose is really bony here, it comes out. These are your bargain hunters. How much does it cost? Is it worth it? Can I get it for less? So they're constantly haggling the price. They're also good at delegating things out to other people. Whereas the ski jump person will say, oh, I'll do it. Whereas the more Roman-shaped nose will say, here, I'll get you to do this and you to do this. And so it indicates the way in which we process information. And sometimes, I know what comes up, are we not talking about a Jewish nose? No, I'm not. We're talking about the bone on the nose and how convex or concave it is. I mean, you look at some of your top billionaires, they'll all have that shaped nose.
Really?
Yes. It's about money. They're money driven. And if they have a straight bridge, then they have both of the traits. So they can serve and they can also oversee and aware of costs, but not as much as the Roman-shaped nose.
And that's how we're born, except look at all these movie stars that have their noses fixed.
Oh, yeah. I remember being on the show with Sharon Osbourne, and I said to Sharon, I need to know how much of you had changed. She said, well, everything from my nose downwards. And so I often, if I know they've had cosmetic surgery, I ask people to show me a photograph prior to the surgery. Because even if you have your nose changed, your lips, and there's so many people are going through Botox and plastic surgery, it doesn't change the personality. You may feel more confident, but it isn't going to change the personality. We are who we are. It's the way we're wired.
Exactly. What is the bottom line?
Well, that's the person like yourself who has the exposed eyelid. Hillary Clinton has this trait. Get to the point.
Exposed eyelid?
Yes. As I look at you, you have the eyelids are completely exposed. Like you look at me and my eyelids are not exposed.
No, yours aren't.
No.
I want mine like yours.
Well, it wouldn't change it. And actually, you see that in your exposed eyelid in the top most beautiful women. So you wouldn't want to change that, would you?
Yeah, I'd like to change the whole thing, honey. But go on. Yeah.
They're much more action-driven. Come on, let's go. Let's do it now. What are we waiting for? And they laser in on the situations. And if you were to look at some of your top female gymnasts, you'll find that most of them have the exposed eyelid, and it's chop, 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 chop. They move on things. It's their action. Come on, let's go. Whereas the eyelid, when it's covered by the epicanthic fold, these are your analytical people. They're going to have question, after question after question. And just when you think you've answered all their questions, they've got 1,000 more. And by that time you say, oh, come on, let's get on with it.
And that's because I'm bottom line. I
Yes.
can't take these
I mean,
long
you can
stories.
talk on and on, but you expect other people to get to the bottom line.
No, I don't.
You don't?
No, I don't do that anymore.
I wonder if you're, ah.
I took the Dale Carnegie course. If you can't say it in 3 minutes, you've lost your
Okay,
audience.
so their choice supersedes structure.
Right.
So we all have choice.
You know, when I was speaking to you on the phone, Naomi, it was your 50th wedding anniversary.
Yes.
So you got married when you were 13 or 14.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was asking you, what is the recipe? And I asked you, of course, if you were crazy about your husband. You said, of course. So what is the recipe for two people? And, you know, they don't have to be married 50 years. But you said something very interesting.
Well, the more traits we have in common, the more compatible people are. In fact, when I looked at the photograph of my husband and I before we got married, I thought, well, we look very similar to each other. You know, we definitely have differences, but we look very similar, and we've been very compatible. And we've never exploded each other. I can't look back and say there's a moment when we've really fallen out ever. And what I'm seeing is that when couples have the opposite of traits, it's harder for that relationship to work. And some of the key traits I find that are more challenging in relationships can be the spouse comes home and starts criticizing. They're trying to help. They don't hear the critical voice. Like this man I met from Yorkshire, had a very dry sense of humor and very critical. And I did his chart, and after listening to it, he shared with me he had this huge fallout with his 50-year-old daughter, and that was the end of the relationship. When he heard me explain his traits and how it was affecting his daughter, he said, he called up and apologized. He said, we had the best relationship ever. He said, I heard myself for the first time. So even though we can have traits within the relationship that can be challenging, when we understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of these comments, we can then say, okay, I'm sorry, let me rephrase this, or I didn't mean that to say that at you, or whatever it might be. So, you know, in every relationship you have strengths and challenges, but the more we have in common, the more compatible. And with what's going on today in relationships, this gives them a heads up about what they're getting into, and helps them to understand each other better and smooth through those rough spots.
It's amazing. How do people know about personology?
Well, unfortunately, you know, considering it's been around for 80 years, and there's been tons of research done over the years, and I've done research with career counselors. There were blind studies, actually, to compare my system with the more traditional tests like Myers-Briggs and DISC programs and other tests. And actually, this system came out ahead, which was not a surprise. And that's based on the feedback from the subjects. But it's, other than my book, which What Makes People Tick and Why.
Let's talk about this book. I'm going to hold it up, okay?
Okay.
Tell about your book.
Well, this is the first time all of this information has ever been made public. I thought it was about time that people need to know about this and the value of this work. And I credit the men for doing this, because it was men from various backgrounds who did the research. And so in the book, what I've done is there's about 61 traits, and at the end, and it discusses the traits in depth, and there's sketches and photographs throughout the book. And at the end of each section, it talks about the applications for children, for relationships, cells, and careers, because I use a lot of this for career assessments, and it's been very helpful. I've worked with Stanford University students.
Oh, tell.
And I remember seeing this one woman who I said, you know, you should be on stage. Oh, I've never thought about doing that. I said, take a class, try it. 2 years later, I called her up, wanted her to be on one of my shows. I said, oh, Naomi, I've been meaning to call you. I did what you told me to. I went in, took a class on acting, joined the theater in San Francisco, and we got the #1 top award for the best play in San Francisco. And she said, I would never have done that if you hadn't suggested it.
This must make you feel so good.
I love it. I get these emails from all over the world, and people saying, thank you, you've changed my life. I understand my wife, my husband for the first time, or I understand my children. And it's just making a huge difference in people's lives. And if someone reads my book and just takes one thing from that book, one trait, and practices it, then that's making a difference, and it's worth the investment. And it ripples over, and with the people we meet. I mean, it gives us a reference point to work from. I often talk about this as if we were to go on a journey across the United States without a map, we might get lost. We ask for directions, we ask different people, and they take us this way and that way. But if we have a map, it helps us to say, oh yes, this is where we should be. And so that's what the face serves as a reference point, as a template to work from. So people who are therapists, teachers, career counselors, I mean, the list goes on. It gives them something to work from, a base to work from that they can have perhaps even greater impact than they're having already of understanding their client and supporting them and giving them a confidence to move through.
But I'm going to ask you this. How many experts in this field are there?
Very few.
That's what I'm saying.
Sadly, very few, because it's very hard to sell, I have to admit. And that's why I switched to the term from personology to face pattern recognition, because that's a more accepted term. And if they say face readers, then you think we're all mixed up with the face reading out there. And this is a science. And I stress on that. And we need that accuracy to create the credibility in this work. And that's what I want to pass on.
So do you teach classes?
Yes, I do. I teach workshops. We have correspondence courses and advanced courses. And once people have completed, they are then able to do their career assessments and personality assessments and give workshops, of course.
So I'm going to ask you, we're going to put on the screen your phone number. We don't usually do that, but do you have caller ID?
No, I don't.
Well, I don't know if you want your phone number, but let's tell your website.
Well, it's www.thefacereader.com, or you can go to naomitickle.com. That's probably easier to remember. And you'll up there on my website, you'll see a list of all my activities and what I'm doing.
What you do really is so important. But, you know, I've had so many different people that I've interviewed, and, you know, I can really get into it. And then it makes me feel so frustrated for the person, for the planet, that we need to get this out there.
Yes,
because it does make a difference.
It does make a difference, and you know, never too young, never too old. My oldest client has been 92. And interestingly enough, what I came up with was architect for her, and apparently that's what she had always wanted to do, but unfortunately she wasn't supported when she wanted to express an interest in taking up the class, and her husband said, no, you belong at home, you're with the children. This was in England. And but architecture was something she had a passion for. But in many ways, even sharing it at that point in time in her life, it was like a reaffirmation. Yes, that's what I should have done.
And that made her feel better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If only we could do what we really want to do. And so many people, I just love doing what I do. I'm so grateful. I really am.
Yeah.
And you love what you love to do. And I remember when you started out. I'm so proud of you, Naomi.
Thank you, Suzanne.
I really, really am. You are so famous. You are. I know you're not going to say anything. Is that because of your eyelids?
It's not about the fame for me. It's about making a difference, leaving a legacy of making a difference in this world. And if I can do that, then what I'm doing is is the reward. And it's the reward that I hear from people, the result of the charts, couples who say, oh, this, you know, we have such a much better relationship, or with children and helping. I remember this one. Oh, one of my best stories, I think, is this young girl who was blind. She was 9. I met her in England, and her mother brought her to me because she was going to this special school in Wales. And so she's travelling from London to Wales twice a week on the bus to go to these special classes because they didn't think she was too bright. Her mother brings her to me, and I said, you know what? Your child has above average intelligence. And she said, well, that's what I thought. I said, now strange what has come up for his mechanical engineering. Keep in mind she's blind. And her mother said, Oh, she loves to take apart machinery and put it together again. And when the man came to fix the washing machine, she went up to him and said, it's missing on the first cycle. Will you show me how to fix it? And she said, her mother said, after this chart, her child grew in leaps and bounds, and she put her back into the regular school.
And she was okay.
And she was okay. Yes.
Boy, you are so lucky. And I'm so lucky that you've been on the show. I want to thank you so much. I want to wish you continuing success.
Thank you.
And in a couple of years, I'd love to have you back because I'm sure you'll have lots of stories.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. It's been a pleasure to be on the show today.
It's been my pleasure. I want to thank our crew. Don't we have an interesting crew?
Oh, yes, we do.
And the wonderful thing is that we were all sitting in the green room, and you did I hate to say a reading, but it was.
Just a mini reading, yes.
And you, with each person of the crew, this wonderful, handsome, darling, beautiful, the beautiful ladies, 2 of them, and you were right on. There wasn't one error that you said. Right?
Right.
That's what they said.
That's what they said, yes.
So thank you again, and they thank you. And of course, I can't wait to see you again. And I thank my audience so much for watching. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.